Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into a pretty visceral journey today, from absolute poverty to literal billions. And along the way, we're going to shatter that totally romanticized illusion of sudden extreme wealth. We're looking at the anatomy of a young billionaire, myth versus reality. We always hear the flashy success stories, right? But today we're actually digging into the real mechanics and the profound emotional cost of building a massive empire totally from scratch. So, think about this core question for a second. What does it actually feel like to win the ultimate financial game at just 25 years old? Seriously, imagine waking up tomorrow and your net worth is in the billions. You've got no boss, no limits, just unlimited resources. Sounds like absolute perfection, doesn't it? Well, what we're going to do is take that dream of infinite luxury and contrast it with the incredibly heavy, surprisingly isolating reality that actually waits for you at the finish line. To really grasp how this happens, we're dropping you straight into the story. POV. You're in Gary, Indiana, and the year is 2001. You're growing up in a house where, frankly, money just isn't discussed, mainly because there's nothing to discuss. You're sharing a bedroom with your younger sister. The wall between your room and the kitchen is paper thin. And through that thin wall, you're listening to your parents sort bills on Friday nights. You can literally hear the specific sound of them stacking envelopes by urgency. It's this quiet survival skill they had to figure out entirely on their own. And that right there perfectly illustrates the catalyst. It's the birth of a serious hunger. Your father drives a forklift at a steel distribution center, right? And he's been passed over for a promotion 3 separate times. He's losing out to guys with more seniority who honestly have way less reason to care. Meanwhile, your mother works the front desk at a dental office, a place she'll never actually be able to afford as a patient. Her only tangible benefit, bringing home sample toothbrushes. You're basically watching the system completely fail your parents in real time. So, sitting right there at the kitchen table at just 16 years old, you decide you're going to learn how to build a system of your very own. Now, shortly after that realization, you get some pretty harsh but totally pivotal advice. You're at this high school entrepreneurship assembly, and the speaker is Calvin Marsh, a 31-year-old multimillionaire. Now, while everyone else in the room is basically half asleep, you follow this guy out to the parking lot. You ask him straight up what part of his speech was actually true. He stops, looks right at you, and drops this quote. Nobody builds something real on passion. Passion is what you say when you don't want to explain the actual reason. He tests you right then and there with some raw market data. You find the gaps perfectly. And just like that, you've got yourself a mentor. So, this completely builds your operational foundation. Over the next 18 months, you are trading in those totally ordinary, fun early 20s weekends for an absolutely grueling business education. Let's look at the timeline. You start out at month 0 as Calvin's unpaid research assistant. By month 6, you're doing these brutal 2-hour bus commutes each way, heading to an office that honestly just smells like old carpet and pure ambition. At 12 months, you're juggling college and this intense job on maybe 5 hours of sleep. And by month 18, your mindset is so completely rewired that you're literally bringing food from home just to avoid the 8% compounded opportunity cost of buying a snack from a vending machine. Using everything you learned about dependencies from Kelvin's head of operations, Teresa, you just ruthlessly execute these unglamorous steps. First, you pinpoint exactly how mid-market logistics companies are leaking their margins. Then, you spend 8 months building a software prototype right in your shared 2-bedroom apartment. You graduate college on a Saturday, and you officially incorporate your business that very next Monday. You end up raising $1.8 million from angel investors, saying no to bad deals, and keeping a totally iron grip on your equity. Finally, you price your product high. Why? Because high pricing signals certainty, and it lets you scale incredibly fast. When the whole thing is finally up and running, you call your dad from a parking lot, and you just give him one heavy word. Okay. Fast forward a bit. You're 25 and your employee count hits 480. But here's the thing. Instead of feeling pure elation, the reality starts to set in. You stop knowing everyone's name right around the 250 mark, and that actually starts to bother you deeply. That initial wild thrill of building, it starts morphing into this careful, super risk-averse pressure. You've got investors, massive decisions to make, and the incredibly heavy weight of hundreds of livelihoods sitting directly on your shoulders. Oh, and the phone, it literally never stops ringing. And then the ultimate climax hits. The acquisition offer arrives. $2.9 billion. You are just 26 years old. This massive wire clears your account on a random Thursday afternoon. You stare at that absolutely unimaginable number on your phone screen for, maybe 40 seconds? You set the phone face down on your kitchen counter, and right here, our story takes a beat. Because what do you actually feel in that exact moment? Strangely, just a low, directionless hum, kind of like a television left on in another room. Instead of this massive, life-altering exhale you've been expecting since those days back in Gary, Indiana, you're hit with this incredibly uncomfortable, anticlimactic silence. You keep waiting for some sort of delayed reaction, some feeling proportionate to having literal billions in your bank account, but it just never comes. And this really gets to the sobering reality of this whole journey. Yes, the money buys immediate physical comfort. You buy your parents a house, you completely secure their early retirement. It solves the physical problems perfectly. But look at what you lose. You lose that thrill of iteration, those late-night problem-solving sessions, that pure, incredibly specific feeling of watching something actually become real. It completely strips away your origin story and the daily driving purpose that made you who you are in the first place. Let's break that down just a bit more. Money can solve a lot. Comfort, freedom, access, for sure. But it absolutely cannot solve peace of mind. It can't buy real relationships, and it definitely cannot give you purpose. And this hits you profoundly while you're sitting in your sister's 2011 Hyundai. She's driving you around during Thanksgiving, singing badly and totally unselfconsciously to some pop song from 2007. And sitting there in the passenger seat, you realize that while she is genuinely uncomplicatedly fine, you have completely lost the ability to just exist. You can't be anywhere without constantly calculating the signal, the cost, and the positioning of every single interaction. Which brings us to a pretty stark realization. You don't escape problems. You just upgrade them. Think about this. Just 14 months after your company is acquired, the acquiring company brings in a professional CEO. They politely make it very clear that a founder running a $3 billion integration is, too much of a risk profile. They completely restructure the pricing, they rebrand the culture, and they make you entirely optional and irrelevant inside the very empire you built from nothing. Ultimately, they force your resignation. The engine never stops. Why the hunger outlasts the poverty. So after the exit, you try to retire to this really nice house in Nashville. You have more money than you could ever need to touch. But you very quickly discover something terrifying. That internal engine you built to survive those sordid bills on Friday nights, it literally does not know how to turn off. The contrast between you and your family becomes painfully profound. See, your father feels this deep, genuine pride and sufficiency now that his grueling forklift shifts are permanently over. He can sit at a table and truly feel like it is enough. But for you, the wound itself is the engine. You end up incorporating a brand new company again at age 28 because your hunger just utterly refuses to be satisfied. You gave your father the ability to say no to a shift, but you realize you can never share that peaceful sufficiency he feels sitting at the kitchen table. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Think about that 16-year-old kid sitting in a high school assembly right now, frantically taking notes while someone in a sports car talks about success. He thinks he's learning how to escape, but as we've explored today, immense wealth might get you out of the neighborhood, and it will definitely solve the physical struggles, but it guarantees absolutely nothing about setting your mind free. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next one.